First things first, ignore the sleeves, honey. They gonna get on y'all nerves all video. They been getting on my nerves all video. Secondly, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandal video. Last time many of y'all saw me, I was crying, broken, didn't know what to do because they had stopped my pay. Well, my pay is still on hold, but we are going to proceed with the Booker T. Washington video. Now, I do want to say thank you so much for the ones who gave me comforting words when I was going through, and more than that, to the people who opened their wallet to me while I was going through. Because of you guys, I was able to enjoy my birthday, so I am very thankful for that. And on the next video, I definitely will have your names on Front Street. But for right now, let's trudge into this Black history, because honey, we ain't gonna cover up nothing here. We gonna talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly regarding Booker T. Washington. Let's get to it. All of my videos are for entertainment purposes. Everything in them is rumor, gossip, and scandal that I get from books, word of mouth, on TV. Let's get to it. Booker Taliaferro Washington was born on April the 5th, 1856 in Hillsford, Virginia. His mother's name was Jane, who was an enslaved woman, and his father's name is unknown, leading for people to start to speculate in Booker's later life that his father was actually a white man. Now, since Booker's mother, Jane, was a slave, Booker himself was born into slavery. And so his childhood was the normal childhood of an enslaved child. You know, sometimes he spent his time playing around with other slave children, possibly even playing around with the master's kids, but most of his time was spent doing whatever the master told him to do. And nobody in this world likes to live under the iron fist of slavery. And so when slaves were legally emancipated, Booker set out immediately trying to find his success in this world. The first thing he did was read every single book that he could get his hands on. Soon, though, he and his mother and other family members needed money, and so he started to work in the mines. But not only did he use that money to help himself and his family out, he also started to save money so he could pursue higher education. Now, by the time Booker was 16, he did have some money saved up, but unfortunately, it was just enough money to travel and get to the school of his choice. It was not enough money to pay the tuition. But Booker, like you're going to see time and time again in this video, did not let this stop him at all. He simply went to the staff of the college, or the president of the college, which was called Hampton Institute, and asked him if he could do janitorial work to pay for his attendance. The president appreciated that Booker used his wits to find other ways to pay for the schooling, and so he told Booker, fine, but I need to see evidence of your cleaning. So what we will do is have you clean a room. If that room is clean to perfection, that will be your entrance exam. And so Booker got to clean it. Once the president saw it, he admitted Booker to the school, and the rest is pretty much history. He had already read so many books before he even got to college, and so it was pretty much smooth sailing when it came to passing his classes. After he left Hampton Institute, he went on to go to Wayland Seminary, but Hampton Institute ended up calling him back. When Booker got back, he got the shock of his life because the president of Hampton Institute didn't call Booker back to take more classes. Heck, he didn't even call Booker back to teach any classes. He called Booker back because he felt like Booker was ready to be the president of his own college. And so the president of Hampton Institute, a man by the name of Samuel C. Armstrong, wrote several letters of recommendation for Booker to get his own college. And in the year 1881, when Booker T. Washington was only 25 years old, he opened the doors to his own college, and it was called Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute. And of course, today it's known as Tuskegee University. And baby, let me tell you, Booker T. Washington did not open this college as just another place to educate people and send them on their way. Honey, Booker T. Washington had a plan for your behind. You see, Booker did have a small curriculum for like book knowledge, you know, maybe a little bit of science here, maybe a little mathematics there. But his main curriculum was industrial work, labor work. Things like masonry, sewing, butchery, woodwork, forming, possibly even things like hard labor, such as maybe pipe laying, or if not pipe laying, railroad track laying. Almost anything that was labor or industrial focused, Booker T taught it. And this is where the genius of Booker's plans came in. A lot of his students were ex-slaves, just like he himself. And if they weren't ex-slaves themselves, they were children of ex-slaves. And what were ex-slaves good at? What came naturally to them? Labor. This pretty much was something that they had been doing day in and day out forever. You can still hear Black Americans say today, shoot, our ancestors built this country, which is true. They built this country using their labor. And so Booker understood that these ex-slaves had a particular skill set when it came to labor. Not only could they do the work to perfection, they could do it very fast. And this was a skill set that other races who were in the Americas at the time simply did not possess. Even if they knew a little bit about labor, they didn't know it like those ex-slaves. And they doggone sure couldn't do it as fast as those ex-slaves. So Booker understood that Black people, new freedmen, could capitalize off of this skill set. And so there were two main parts of his plan for success for his Black students. The first part were the graduates that were told to take their knowledge back to their hometown. They were supposed to teach the people in their hometowns so they could build up their community. Make their hometowns much more functional. Make sure you have the forms running right. Then the people in the community might even just want to spice the town up. This is where the masonry comes in. Let's make some of these buildings more beautiful. And on top of those graduates going home and making their towns more functional and more beautiful, they also were supposed to open up a college. So therefore, they could teach the Black young adults in the surrounding town. So that was the first half of Booker's plan. But it was the second part of Booker's plan that really took the dog's bone and buried it in the back of the home, honey. Because that plan was for the other half of the graduating class to go back to their hometown and open up businesses. Entrepreneurship. They were supposed to take their learning, whether it be learning how to operate a sawmill, a wood shop, like I said before, a butchery, masonry business, whatever learning they wanted to choose from, they were supposed to take that and go and open up a business. What made him a show-nuff genius is that he understood. Sorry guys, the clip didn't process, but what I was saying right here is that he understood that even if the Black business owner ran into competition due to poor white folks also trying to open those same type of businesses, they would still have a leg up because of those special skills. For example, because when those wealthy whites came walking into the white folks store and said, hey Tom, I want you to build me a house, how long that's gonna take? White man Tom was gonna tell the wealthy man that's probably gonna take about 12 months or something like that. Wealthy man tip his hat and say, good day Tom, that's a little too long for me. Go right across the way and go to that Black man shop, and that Black man or that ex-slave would tell the wealthy white man, well shoot sir, I probably could get that done for you in 4 months. Wealthy white man say, now that's what I'm talking about, buddy. Shake the hand, his house get built. This is why Booker had this plan. He could see this vision for Black America, and he already had some success stories under his belt. And because people could see success in what Booker was doing, he pretty much became the man when it came to Black America. And in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that is all Booker was concerned with. That's all he was worried about was the Black community. He had no want or need to integrate. However, the strangest thing started to happen. Certain white people started to gravitate to him. And I'm not talking about Tuskegee. It had always gotten donations from certain white people who wanted to help on and off. So I ain't talking about Tuskegee. I'm talking about to Booker T himself. And this was something that happened naturally. These people just wanted to. They ended up respecting him. As a matter of fact, speaking on those donations that I just mentioned, it was a deal that happened with that, which caused a lot of people to respect Booker and want to be around Booker. Because at one point, Tuskegee started to get an influx of students and they needed an extra room or rooms to be built onto the school. Turns out the school hadn't received enough donations to get those rooms added on. And so the people who had given donations before but didn't give donations this time kind of wanted to sit back and see what Booker was going to do. Tuskegee ain't got no money. They ain't gonna be able to pay no builders to build no classrooms into that school. So they wanted to sit back and watch. and they sat right back with their hair blowing in the wind as they watched Booker T march his students right outside, told his students to roll up their sleeves and to get to work. Booker said, I ain't got to hire nobody. I got a school sitting here full of professionals. They can build the classrooms for me. And that's exactly what they did. Those students worked together along with Booker to build one, if not two new classrooms onto that school. And guess what, baby? Use the knowledge that Booker taught them to get it done. Hey, glory! What, child, honey? If that don't light a fire under your bones, I don't know what will. And so this is what I mean. Booker T. Washington was an impressive man. And when you do things like this, they have no choice but to respect you. And so, like I said, certain white people start to gravitate to him. And once they started to gravitate to him as a person, they started wanting to hear his ideas. They started wanting to invite him to the table. And it's actually around this time period when he had his most famous speech of all. And that was the Atlanta Address that happened in the year 1895. And during this speech, he told the crowd that he felt like blacks should be worried about building economic wealth. They shouldn't be focused on hating the white race, but they also shouldn't be focused on just integrating with the white race, at least not yet. Booker felt like black folks shouldn't even be worried about white politics. He felt like leave all their stuff to them. Leave them alone. Let's focus on our own communities, building our own wealth. And if integration should happen in the future, then it would happen naturally because white people would respect black people. They would respect black people's economic wealth, and they also would respect black people's resolve, black people's fortitude to get it done by any means necessary. And the reason Booker believed in this so much is because that is what happened to him. And so Booker didn't think he was just somebody special and he was the only black person this could happen to. He envisioned this for his whole race. Everybody loved everything Booker was saying. I mean, he was such a bright and shining star that he ended up being the first black man ever to be invited to dine at the White House. But as much as Booker was soaring, and as great as his plans were for the black race, there was a storm coming that would decimate everything that this man had worked for. And that storm's name was W.E.B. Du Bois and his talented 10th. So by the 1890s, early 1900s, W.E.B. Du Bois was already speaking against Booker T. Washington. He felt like Booker T's vision for the black race was outdated, was cowardly, was very Uncle Tom-like. W.E.B. thought that black people shouldn't have to do anything. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't have to build up no wealth. And if they did build wealth, they certainly didn't need to do it with these labor jobs. I mean, only slaves did that. Black people were better than that. He said Booker T's plan of teaching labor and industrial to black people in his college, that was stupid. What Booker T should be focusing on was liberal arts, philosophy, classical music, things of that nature, things that wealthy white students learned. Why can't black students learn what the wealthy white students learn? That's real equality. To sum it up, he pretty much felt like that black people deserved all the trappings and more that white people got just because. And so W.E.B. Du Bois starts to show up at events with his crisp, new, expensive suits, and his slick back hair and his greased up to the side mustache. And he starts to challenge Booker T, telling the black people who would listen that what Booker T is saying is beneath you guys. You guys deserve more. And Booker T is kind of looking at W.E.B. Du Bois, and at first he feels like W.E.B. Du Bois is just a misguided fool. Booker is like, boy, you wasn't even born down south. You're from up north. So you're coming with a mindset of somebody who has been dealing with northern white people. You know nothing about these southern white people. Not only do you not know anything about the South, the white or black people, also you were never in slavery. So you don't really know this oppressed culture like I know this oppressed culture. The only way that your plan will work where white folks would just accept black people into their culture is if white folks saw black people as other white folks, and white folks don't see black people as other white folks, especially the white folks down south. And then for W.E.B. Du Bois to kind of suggest that black people should try to get their wealth by philosophy, classical music, and all this kind of stuff, Booker sure enough thought he was a fool. Half of these black folks is ex-slaves. They barely ain't even never read before. Where do you get in your head that they really need to be putting in time focusing on philosophy? These people are trying to live. These people need to get money. They need to build wealth. They don't need to sit around and contemplate why the world is like it is. They don't have time for that. It was almost like, in Booker T's eyes, that W.E.B. Du Bois' plan for blacks was like in a fairy tale, was like happening in a world where blacks just were not emancipated from slavery not even 30, 40 years ago. And so at first, like I said, Booker T just thought that W.E.B. Du Bois was kind of a misguided fool. And maybe he would take his thoughts and his ideas and go on somewhere, because if his thoughts and ideas spread it, what it would do is kind of reduce black people to a group of people trying to force themselves on a white society that does not want them. And then Booker started questioning W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay, since you're saying that blacks shouldn't do these labor jobs, which is the jobs that they are most good at this time, also which are jobs that a lot of them could own and become entrepreneurs in, if you don't think that's a good idea, then what's your idea? W.E.B. Du Bois kind of came back with an idea that he envisioned a day when black people could work the same jobs white people work. Shoot, really, they shouldn't even have to start their own black company, because they should be able to work in the white folks' company. And Booker T is like, okay, first of all, I don't like how you're sitting up there saying that blacks shouldn't open their own companies. They should give that up so they can work up under a white man in his company. But okay, let's say we go that route. What is the guarantee that these white people are going to hire these black people in their companies? What if they don't want to? That's when W.E.B. Du Bois said, well, we're going to fight them. We're going to fight them and make them hire us. We need to stage protest. We need to take them to court. Anything we got to do to make these white folks let us in their workforce and let us in their communities. And Booker T, I'm sure, thought this was crazy, because I'm not going to lie, y'all don't have to agree with me. Everybody can have their own opinion, but I also think this is crazy. You're going to give up your community, your own jobs where you are the owner of those companies, or if you don't own those companies, at least you can work up under another black person to try to work alongside white people, and in most cases up under white people. And then the main point, let's not forget this, to try to do that with white people when they don't even want you there. So to fuss and fight to force them to let you do this? That's what you're really trying to do? Yes, because anything less than that means the white people think we're less than them. Trying to make us go to all black schools and work at all black jobs. No, we should be able to go to their schools and work in their job. And I don't know if I've said this already, but I honestly don't think Booker T thought that this type of thinking was going to go anywhere. But he underestimated two things. The first thing that he underestimated were the emotions of black people. We have the strongest emotions on the planet, which is a great thing. It actually makes us special if we use them in the right way. But if you use them in the wrong way, letting somebody rile up your emotions by making you think you're missing out on something, our emotions can be our worst enemy. And that's what happened. W.E.B. Du Bois started to write all kind of books, write all kind of articles, and he would rile up the emotions of the crowd and make them feel like pretty much they were missing something. Make them feel like doing these labor jobs and staying in their own communities meant they were less than. And slowly but surely, or shall I say quickly and surely, black folks started to kind of move over to W.E.B. Du Bois' type of thinking. But Booker T was a very smart man. And as he watched W.E.B. Du Bois move from town to town, be able to print all of these books, write all of these articles, and just have them spread it around everywhere, Booker T noticed that this man wasn't doing this by himself. Him and his talented tenth of blacks, or the group that he hang around, they're not doing this by themselves. They don't have the money to do all of this. There is a machine behind these people. There is something or somebody wanting this message to be spread to the Black community. And Booker T, who was smart enough to realize and see the future of what was going to happen in the Black community, came to quickly realize that whoever this machine was, whatever was pushing W.E.B. and his type of thinking, was banking on the destruction of the Black race. And for them to be so successful at getting Black people on board with them, whoever this group was had studied Black people for years. They knew how emotional Black people were. They knew how Black people thought, so they knew exactly how to get them. And Booker wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong at all. It's hidden from the history books, but there absolutely was a machine, and it was doing everything that Booker T. Washington thought that it was doing. So anyway, Black people start to gravitate to the way of W.E.B. Du Bois. They started to abandon those lowly labor jobs. You know, we ain't working at that sawmill for old ex-slave Phil no more. We're gonna go over here and work as a bookkeeper or a clerk at this company where I'm gonna fight them to let me work for them. And then when I do, they're gonna make me enter from the back and then tell me, hey boy, did you get them papers yet? You'd better get to it, Blackie. Oh, and by the way, you don't get a 30-minute to an hour lunch like everybody else. Your lunch is 5 minutes. I'm going to work at those companies because, yes, they treat me oh so bad. But that sawmill that ex-slave owns, it's just for uneducated people. I just wouldn't dare. And so guess what happened? That lowly sawmill ended up having to close its doors. That lowly butcher shop ended up having to close its doors. That lowly masonry shop, all of these Black-owned businesses slowly but surely started to shut their doors, and as soon as they did, them poor white folks, as well as people from other races, came right in and opened up those same businesses and kept those businesses going for years. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that most of them were able to hand down millions of generational wealth down to their children to this day. So yes, Booker T had to watch as his gem of a plan for the Black race started to pretty much go down the drain. And it did make him mad at first, you know what I'm saying? He did speak out against it, but people did not want to hear what Booker T. Washington was trying to say. Blacks had a new way of doing things. They wanted to do and be what the white man was, and if the white man didn't let them, they would cry and beg and fight until they got their way. That old notion that Booker T had of gaining these people's respect first, of letting these people see you also as a person of status first, went right on out of the door. And so essentially what happened is the same racism we sometimes get today. White folks telling us that we ain't never built nothing for ourselves, that we can't do nothing without them, and that we're always forcing ourselves onto them and making them take care of us. So now for any person that clicked on this video that felt like this, now you can see that there was actually a totally opposite life that somebody tried to plan for Blacks, but somebody else came and destroyed. And for anybody that wants to get offended about civil rights, you know, W.E.B. Du Bois, the Talented 10th, Harlem Renaissance, and all this kind of stuff, rest assured, I am not talking about them. I am not talking about W.E.B. Du Bois and all these type of people. I'm not talking about them at all. I am talking about the machine behind them. So anyway, to finish up this video, by the year of 1913, Blacks had pretty much abandoned Booker T. Washington. But even though a lot of Blacks had abandoned Booker T. Washington, he still had not abandoned them. You see, when it came down to this new ideology that Blacks had, where they wanted to be in white spaces, it caused a lot of them to get in trouble. You know, maybe they would try to protest, or maybe they would tell a white person off, or you never know what would happen. And so Booker T. Washington would find himself trying to help these Blacks. You know, maybe these Blacks ended up in a court of law for something like agitation, or they incited something. And because these Blacks would just be regular Joes, you know, they weren't W.E.B. Du Bois, or they weren't, you know, I don't know, Langston Hughes. They weren't anybody that was really truly important to that movement. And so the machine that was pushing that movement didn't really care about them. And so they would find themselves in court facing a judge where they have pretty much gotten in trouble trying to to follow this ideology, and there was nobody to help them out. And lots of times the person's family would write a letter to Booker T. Washington asking him, can you help my son out? And Booker T. would. He would reach down in his pocket and pay whatever money was needed, to get the young man or the young woman out of trouble. This not only happened in the court system, Booker T. went so far as to save some people from the lynch mob. And because Booker did these type of things where he would help people who got in trouble for trying to follow that ideology, people like to say now that he secretly supported those machine-pushed type of organizations. But supporting somebody who got in trouble due to that ideology is not the same as supporting that machine or that ideology. The only case where Booker T was even close, or it even seemed like he was supporting that machine, was the case of Jackson Giles. And this is where Booker T. Washington challenged the Alabama Constitution. He also challenged the Louisiana Constitution. And yes, both of these cases had to do with blacks voting. In these particular cases, these people had already been voting for at least 30 years, and there were recent changes in the Constitution that took their right to vote away. He was trying to keep the status quo the same, and this is a great thing that Booker did, and I'm pretty sure these people appreciated that. But some people try to use this to say things like, Booker was just too scared to let them white folks know how he felt. He wanted to cause agitation and roar like W.E.B. Du Bois and them, but he was just too scared. You can tell by how he secretly did this, and that. So, I guess you can look at it that way. But if he really wanted to secretly do something and be radical and be too scared to do it in front of the white folks, I'm pretty sure he would have instead supported court cases where the people had never had a chance to vote. That would be much more of a statement of, hey, I'm with this new system of thinking and you better give these folks a chance to vote. But anyway, by the year 1915, Booker T had pretty much mostly retired to his home. He would do speeches here and there, but that had mostly slowed down. However, in November of 1915, he was invited to meet with somebody or do a speech or something in New York City, and Booker went. Allegedly, soon after eating, he ended up collapsing. He was taken to the hospital where the doctors diagnosed him with Bright's disease, which was an inflammation of the kidney. Booker was placed on a train and immediately he headed back to Tuskegee, but when he got to Tuskegee, he ended up dying about an hour after his arrival at a little bit past midnight. Now, as quiet as it's kept, there have always been rumors that Booker T. Washington was poisoned. Now, like I said, that is as quiet as it's kept. However, in recent years, that quietness has kind of gotten a little bit louder. Somebody wrote a whole book on the theory of Booker T being poisoned. But who knows, maybe the kidney inflammation was natural causes. All I know is Booker T's date of death was November the 14th, 1915, and he was only 59 years old. Now, I know I haven't touched on Booker T's personal life or his wives, but I do want to let you know he was married 3 times and he also had 3 children. And I also want to say, in doing the deep dives on this video as well as the Zora Neale Hurston video, I have absolutely learned a lot. And there seems to be an agenda for pretty much everything that goes on in this world. Speaking on those agendas, there is a lot to be said and discussed about. However, I don't believe YouTube would look kindly on that. So for the ones of you who are interested and would like to take this journey with me as I deep dive and delve into hidden things, hidden history, hidden politics on both parties, welfare and economics, honestly, hidden things about the world, period. And most of all, hidden things about where we're headed as a nation, feel free to join my new Patreon, because I want to talk as freely as I can so we can have back and forths about this stuff. But anyway, the link is in the top comment, and just to let my regular subscribers and my members know that this is not going to change anything that I have going on with you guys. I've just grown as a person and a personality, and I just would like to talk about more serious world affairs. So this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and this is the end of the Booker T. Washington video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Also, please subscribe, and I will see you guys with another video soon.